Hearthstone has just turned 9 years old this month, and over the course of its lifetime, the game has evolved so much. We see new card mechanics and types, we saw the introduction of new game modes and systems, but one of the biggest changes we've seen since the game launched is the introduction of two new classes. The first being Demon Hunter back in 2020, which had followed the basic structure that all other classes in Hearthstone have. It had its own class keyword, as well as a general playstyle. Death Knight, the second class added to the game, took this formula and innovated on it in ways that we'd never seen before. Not only did Death Knight get its own hero power and keyword, but instead of a general playstyle, the class got 3 different playstyles separated by their own deck building system. The Rune System in Death Knight brought a whole new level of nuance to the class, and personally I think it makes Death Knight one of the best and most fun classes to play. So, with all that being said, what if we could take a similar concept to the Death Knight Rune System and apply it to some of the 9-year-old classes? Today, I'm proud to present part 1 of a series of videos where I look to do just that. The first class we are going to have a look at is Hearthstone's most iconic class, Mage. Our goal is to introduce something entirely new to the class that helps solidify different decks and playstyles, but still keeps the core of Mage intact. Let's take a look at what the Mage class in World of Warcraft is all about, to try to find a good place to start. So, mages in WoW are split into 3 different specializations, those specs being the 3 main schools of magic: Fire, Frost, and Arcane. Each of these specializations have a very different playstyle as well. Generally, Fire mages are all about chucking big damage spells at their enemies. Frost mages usually control the battlefield by casting spells that afflict many enemies at once. And finally, Arcane mages focus on building up and unleashing huge bursts of multiple spells at once. These different specializations fit very well into Hearthstone already, as we see many deck archetypes that push Mage in these directions. So, what if we honed in on these distinct Mage specializations and built a system that supported decks that focus on a specific school of magic? Before I have a look at what I came up with, here are my general rules for this system. I wanted this system to mimic what we saw in Death Knight's Rune System, but not copy it. It should have some sort of unique spin on how it works to differentiate it from the Death Knight class still. So, with all that in mind, here's what I ended up landing on: a deck building system that I like to call the Mage Study. The Mage Study works like this. When building a deck, you choose a particular school of magic for your deck to study. The options, of course, being Fire, Frost, and Arcane. After you choose, your deck becomes a beginner in that field of magic, and your basic hero power is replaced to better suit your studied magic. Now, these hero powers may seem strictly cosmetic, as they all do the same thing that you're used to, being 2 mana and dealing 1 damage to an enemy of your choice. But they do have one specific utility. Each one is tagged with its respective spell school. Now, the reasoning for this is that these hero powers would be affected by school-specific spell damage. The reason I say school-specific spell damage, and not just spell damage in general, is because I feel like it would be a bit dangerous to have all the old spell damage cards affect the Mage hero power. And so, because there are not many cards that have school-specific spell damage, we can make new ones with this feature in mind. Also, I'd imagine the wording on school-specific spell damage cards be updated to just say the school they are affecting and no longer specify spells, just to make this more clear. Now, if you wish to take your deck study to the next level, you may choose to make your deck an Adept deck. This is done by simply ensuring your deck always contains more spells from the school you are studying than both the other schools combined. For example, let's say you have a Fire deck with 6 Fire spells. In that scenario, the deck may still contain a combined total of 5 spells from the Frost or Arcane spell schools. Note that spells from other spell schools or no spell school do not count towards these deck building restrictions. The reward for an Adept deck is the following. 1. Mage spells randomly generated from cards you play can no longer generate spells from the 2 spell schools not being studied. So if you play a card that would discover a spell, and you're an Arcane Adept deck, you can no longer discover Fire or Frost spells. And 2, the deck can now contain a special type of spell known as Adept spells. Adept spells are more powerful spells from their respective schools. Now, I do not think it would be necessary to go back and make a ton of old spells into Adept spells, but it could be a new way to balance some old cards if they wanted to. Finally, if you really wish to hone your deck in and become a master of a specific mage study, all you must do is only include spells from the spell school you wish to study. Doing this upgrades your deck to master status, which is represented by upgrading your basic hero power into a more powerful and unique hero power. Let's have a look at each of the different master hero powers. First up, for a deck that only has fire spells, the hero power Fire Bursts will help you throw more damage at your enemies. This hero power is your normal base hero power, but can be used twice on each of your turns. Next we have Frost Storm for our Frost Mages. This hero power deals 1 damage to a minion and also damages minions adjacent to it. A very good board controlling hero power to deal with swarming decks, but at the cost of losing the flexibility of being able to damage the enemy hero. Finally, we have Arcane Mage's most iconic ability, Arcane Missiles. This hero power does exactly what the spell of the same name did, dealing free damage randomly split among all enemies. It does come at a bit of a higher cost than the spell, but with it being able to be used each turn, I think the cost increase is justified. These new hero powers are the core of the system. They create a big reward for really focusing your deck on a specific spell school and mastering it. Each of the hero powers here I tried to design to show off all the different playstyles mages have. And with that, we're done with our first hero. If you enjoyed and want to see me revisit more old classes and give them something fun and new, leave a like on the video and comment down below which hero I should tackle next. Alright, with all that out of the way, I hope to see you again soon.